Our feelings have made of us brothers, and our hidden thoughts have the same set. I don't believe there is one thing on this earth we shall come to regret. Whether we've done good or bad, we'll let our descendants decide. As for now, let's go hand in hand, onward, with confident stride. Southeastern Europe, a long turbulent history site, the space enormously diverse in nature, landscapes and cultures, created by diverse people and their beliefs, rulers and empires, sometimes uniting, sometimes dividing, entitling it to hold diverse names, shaping or describing its destiny. That history, for some history of living in common countries, for others living in the country behind the Iron Curtain, is reflected in certain common feelings. However, still significantly different in the natural conditions and general development. Most of countries were, in one way or another, more or less, affected by a long history of armed conflicts, severely affecting their economies and population. In present, all countries in this region are characterized by high economic growth rates, yet unemployment is a big problem. The region has high agricultural potential. However, conditions for its intensification differ a lot among countries. Situation in rural areas, being highly dependable on the success of agriculture, range from disastrous situation in mountains, where high expression of poverty is ruling and depopulation is high, to the rich plains with almost urbanized settlements. Rich or poor, Southeastern European countries and territories are moving forward towards the world and European integrations. In this way, some have already reached the full EU membership. For others, the way is still rather long, even unpredictable. It leads through fulfillment of the Copenhagen criteria, but also extensive regional cooperation, increase of regional trade, and free movement of people and ideas. Since it plays such a significant role in the overall development of national economies, rural and agricultural development is a major challenge. Agriculture and rural development strategies, legislation, and programming documents have been developed in two already EU member countries, Bulgaria and Romania, and the two more candidate countries, Croatia and Macedonia, as well as in some of those which are still only potential candidate countries. However, in most countries, the full implementation of respective policy measures and instruments is still an ongoing process. Experience gained provides a lot of lessons, which, if shared, might help others be more efficient. And this experience is often exchanged during various meetings, conferences, and discussions. Yet usually initiated and facilitated by an alien, short-term based and without any follow-up. Southeast agriculture and rural development professionals had a long tradition of meeting each other, before they realized that meeting each other from time to time will not bring enough benefit, and that something more could and should be done. On the Agricultural Policy Forum 2004 in Leipzig, the participants concluded that they needed and wanted more active cooperation in the region. During the next Agricultural Policy Forum, Rural Development, Opportunities for Cooperations in the Southeast Europe, in Macedonia and Serbia in June 2005, an initiative was launched. Let's make a permanent working body to deal with the rural development issues. An informal organization to start with, but with a statute and the bodies to help speed up the process of its changes. After the next meeting in Ohrid, the new organization got a name, the Regional Rural Development Standing Working Group, which was immediately transformed into a more popular short version. The SWG was born. The Regional Rural Development Standing Working Group, SWG, today consists of representatives of almost all governmental institutions responsible for rural development in respective countries and territories of Southeast Europe. The SWG presently provides a platform for the exchange of experiences and mutual assistance in the field of rural development. This is accomplished through rendering direct support, conducting studies, assessments and research in rural development, facilitation of strategic planning and programming in establishment of proper structures in institutions, networking of stakeholders in the region, raising awareness for rural development issues within local communities and other interested parties. The general objective of the SWG is to facilitate the identification of the mutual needs and interests, support joint planning of cross-border rural development projects, as well as support different institutions in fulfilling the needs of their countries. Its objectives are also two: support creation of a framework for permanent regional cooperation on EU integration topics towards a better understanding amongst institutions, people and business in Southeast Europe. Contribute to a process of increasing partners' ability for defining rural development policies in relation to the EU. Foster sustainable overall development of rural areas. SWG is facing a lot of challenges. Identification and analysis of economic development potentials in selected rural border regions significant to foreign trade. Development and implementation of concepts for utilization of these economic potentials. For example, development of regional brands, rural tourism and rural economy sustainable diversification in general. Supporting the establishment, that is, further development of institutional structures that promote rural development, and especially in the border regions, also including networking for rural development support and capacity building of existing structures, decentralized and centralized. Identification, planning and implementation of bilateral cross-border cooperation projects. Establishment of an internet-based communication and information platform. Promoting regional exchange of know-how on the different working levels. Permanent regional cooperation on EU integration topics with major emphasis on economic development of rural areas. Increasing partners' ability in fine-tuning of rural development policies in relation to the EU. Preparation of rural development programs 2007-2013 an implementation of rural development measure as well as creating joint negotiation positions towards the EU accession. Work in relation to poverty reduction in rural areas, support activities in creating new jobs, help with the empowerment of young farmers and women through diversification of activities in rural areas, and support activities to increase the attractiveness of rural areas and conserve and improve their environment in Southeast Europe. Out of all these challenges, SWG has so far taken few, namely direct support and conducting studies, assessments and research in rural development, assistance in establishing proper structure in institutions responsible for rural development, facilitating communication between all stakeholders of rural development in the region, raising awareness for rural development within local communities and rural development stakeholders, strategic planning and programming of rural development. 13 institutions, authorities in the Southeast European region responsible for rural development on national or regional level joined the SWG till the end of 2008. The membership is still increasing. The SWG Secretariat has presently contacts with the Turkish Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs and various other rural development stakeholders in member countries and territories, which have expressed their interest to join the SWG Rural Club. This is a body of the SWG, which has the aim to gather organizations and individuals, public, private and civil society initiatives ready for cooperation and partnership, which can help empowering support to rural communities in the region, concerted and rational use of funds and human resources, and exchange of knowledge for the benefit of all. During the last 3 years, SWG supported various projects and activities such as Project Assessment of Rural Areas in the border region of Macedonia, Bulgaria and Serbia. The project, which is popularly called the Land of Shopska, was in countries which were within very first few members of the SWG, and one of the first to be done in sequences of the participatory assessment, expert analysis, and then combined with the pilot measures supported by GTZ. TCP projects support capacity building for agriculture and rural development policy analysis and formulation in view of EU accession of Western Balkan countries, supported by FAO, the preparation of which was finished in 2008 and is to start in 2009. Project EU Approximation and Economic Development in Western Balkan countries, supported by GTZ Open Regional Fund, which is ongoing and will last till the end of 2009. During this period, the SWG has conducted various workshops, conferences, study tours, trainings, fairs and exhibitions, out of which some should be mentioned. SWG is a growing family of institutions and organizations sharing a common understanding that rural development has no borders and that regional cooperation is a key for success for their people in Southeast Europe. Therefore, SWG is in constant search for support for its activities and direct support to rural development in the region. The major supporters so far were German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development through GTZ and Invent and World Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Hopefully, with transferring from informal to formal organization, SWG will soon gain more support. SWG has also established functional communication with EU partners and permanent contacts and cooperation with Following the Leipzig Agenda and decision of its members in October 2008, Secretariat of the SWG, RRD Southeast Europe, will continue to be seated in Skopje, Macedonia, where it will be registered as an international organization during the year 2009.
The whole story about the Standing Working Group for Regional Rural Development is about the policy dialogue between the countries in the Southeastern Europe and taking the common strategies in the upcoming negotiations with the EU to have also the as much as political network on the ministry level, which is formalized within this group, also on the technical level, which members of the Standing Working Group are representing, and further on to include the NGO sector in the whole story, as well as all the players concerned, such as municipalities and mayors in the rural areas. Principles of connecting all the experience gained in the region, as well as from the European Union, the new member states and the old member states, and try to combine all this experience within the Southeastern European region. And this will definitely contribute to the decrease of fundings needed, will make less complicated the whole programming of regional and rural development especially. And also on the political level, it will give the platform for the politicians actually again to bring the whole region toward the Europe much faster.
Invent, as a capacity building institution, is supporting the political dialogue and exchange of experiences between the Southeastern European countries. And we see this strong cooperation and closer dialogue between these countries as one of the major success factors of development in that region. So the Standing Working Group, as an outcome of a policy dialogue activity, which was also supported by Invent and GTZ, in our opinion, is taking an important role to support and to foster the dialogue and the exchange of experience between the Southeastern European countries. Therefore, Invent decided to support the Standing Working Group with specific activities like workshops, training measures, but also study tours to strengthen the capacity of the Standing Working Group members, but also to bring them together and to have a closer cooperation between the members and the member countries. And in future, we would like to involve the Standing Working Group as a multinational organization or institution much more in all of our activities, like we have foreseen it in our new training program for the Southeastern European countries, as a partner on the political level, but also on the implementation level, but also as a supporter of Invent's activities in the countries, as a link to the partner ministries in the countries, but also sometimes as a mediator between the different interests.
Just a little bit about the history. The history from my point of view, or let's say GTZ point of view, in Southeastern Europe is that after the political change we started to support activities in different countries with respect to rural development. And in the beginning these were just different kind of projects in different kind of countries without having, let's say, kind of cooperation between the countries, between the borders, and between also the participants and our partners in the region. Then I think more and more one realized what also has to do somehow with the EU approximation accession process of the countries in Southeastern Europe and the Stability Pact, that a success factor for supporting rural development in the countries is the cooperation between the countries. And not only GTZ, but in particular also our Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, supported this idea of regional cooperation starting, let's say, in the beginning of the new century by including in all project activities specific components for cross-border cooperation.